What's happening, weirdos? I am thrilled you are here for the long overdue return of my dear friend, Judd Apatow. The first time Judd was on the pod, we did it at his house. It was at night, kind of had like a nighttime flavor. And this is morning at his office. He's bright, he's chipper, cheery, and he's delightful. And I'm so glad. I like the other one too, but this one was extra special, I'm going to say. This one was extra special. He goes deep, he goes funny, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to see Judd, he's on tour right now for wonderful causes, for the Red Cross, for hurricane relief. He's going to be in Atlanta on November 3rd at the Variety Playhouse with, I believe, Jeff Foxworthy and other special guests. That's for the hurricane relief in Georgia. And then November 9th in New York City with very, very big, special, super secret guests and Mike Birbiglia as well. What a letdown. I'm just kidding. Mike Birbiglia, my dear friend, and Ricky Velez and other super amazing secret guests on November 9th, all to benefit the Red Cross and hurricane relief. Go to juddapatow.com/events for tickets. And thank you to everyone who came out and saw me in Denver. It was so fun. The next dates I have are October 29th in Los Angeles, Raleigh, North Carolina, Indianapolis, Seattle, Portland. We just added a second show. We're going to be filming that as well, which is going to be super fun. Portland at the Aladdin on December 20th. That is the one. Hope you can be there. 21st, you sold out. Eugene, Oregon. Thank you. And then Phoenix, Arizona in February. So go to PeteHolmes.com for those. Really, really excited for Portland on December 20th. Right around the holidays. So go to PeteHolmes.com for all of those. And maybe come see me in Los Angeles on October 29th. That's the next one coming up. All right, everybody. Let's enjoy the man who needs no introduction, the man who changed my life, the funny, the wonderful, the warm, the intelligent, the fun, the silly, the sensual, Judd Apatow. Get into it. Your office has the vibe of someone who Googled high-end and then whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like you have this record player that looks at least $70,000. And I'm like, Judd, have you ever sat in here just grooving to records?
Have I?
I don't want to embarrass you. I'm just
Can I tell you what happened with my experience with vinyl? First of all, you've got a Kleenex box over your shoulder.
You don't like that?
Not for the whole podcast. Just toss it. Yeah.
There it is.
That's weird. Some of my employees masturbating during the day.
With that sweet, they masturbate just to the high-end quality of that turntable. I mean, it's enough.
Well, you know what? I didn't have
enough.
I didn't have a vinyl turntable since high school.
Yes.
And then, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I went to Jim Carrey's house and he had the most amazing turntable.
Yes.
And
Was it
set
that
up.
one?
And I said to him, "What is that?" Because I'm not smart enough to figure out the good one. And I just got the exact thing he did. But you're saying you don't believe that I use it. This is how you are proven correct. Is recently I tried to use it.
Yeah.
Turntable wouldn't spin. The guy comes and I'm like, how can it be broken? Because I never use it. And he goes, yeah, the oil is going to muck it up if you don't use it.
You got to turn it around.
So I had to pay an enormous amount of money
to fix
it due to non-use.
Jim Carrey, I bet, is using his turntable.
He does. You know why it's hard to use? Because we're used to an endless stream of music. And
free.
You know what?
Yeah.
When it's like you got to get up every 19 minutes, it is a fucking bummer. We need 8-foot vinyls. There used to be vinyls that would like fall, right?
Yeah.
Like you could stack them up.
Yeah.
I don't want to get up every 18 minutes.
I think that's part of the fun. My friend Steve Hart in high school told me this amazing music experience where he was listening to jazz records, and the only thing that was keeping him awake was knowing that he'd have to get up and turn it over, so that like kept him engaged in the music.
Yeah, that's not what I think. I think halfway through the side, I'm like, can't believe I got to get up in 8 minutes.
I'm gone.
Yeah, I look at the needle, I'm like, I don't want to get up.
It's a thing. You made me think of something that I didn't want to lose. Jim Carrey.
Consumer goods.
High-end
products.
High-end products.
I don't like high-end products generally, but that is one that I decided because I don't really have any interest. So I went for that.
I was going to say up top, one of the strangest things about my life is that I consider you my very dear friend, my very close friend. Like,
that's the weirdest thing of your life?
What I'm saying is you are a hero of mine, and we've sort of transcended that.
Yeah.
I now think of you, when you say I'm not a high-end guy, I think of you first and foremost as Maud and Iris's dad, wearing New Balances, kind of in that space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I've lost all of the magic and the mystery of Judd.
Well, when I first met you, I'm like aghast. Yeah. This is a very long time ago now, and now it's very normal. I talk to you. I'd say at least once a week. Yep. We'd shoot the shit. We talk about fears, insecurities, growth, sharing, caring, and that's very cool for me. Yeah. And I'm very grateful for you in my life.
As am I.
It's very fun, right? I don't have a lot of friends. Where are you in friends?
I think I was just talking this morning about how there's something wrong with me in that area.
No, what do you mean? No men have friends.
I think there's something weird about friends generally as an adult, because one of the things was I had children young.
Yes.
Right? And so all my friends had kids later. So then you basically lose all your friends.
Right.
Because you're not in sync with them. Right?
I'm so with you because, we have a 6-year-old, and like if someone doesn't have kids, I'm not saying we can't be friends, but I'm sort of saying we can't really be
It's
friends.
over.
It's sort of over.
And so if you're 10 years ahead of everybody, right?
Yeah.
And you know no one with a kid.
Yeah.
Like nobody.
Yeah.
And then that's your life. And so now all your friends are still high, drinking, carousing.
Well, you're Ben Stone. You're Seth Rogen's character in Knocked Up.
That's what that came from.
And you still, I know, and you still have Martin Starr thinking it's funny if he doesn't cut his hair. And you're like, I have to buy nipples.
Exactly.
You're like, I'm buying breast pumps.
And now that my kids have moved out, I'm not in sync again.
Yeah.
Because all their kids are in school. So I'm just like, you want to, maybe we could do acid now. They're like, I've got the 6th grade potluck, and so I'm still out of sync with everyone, which is also a weird feeling.
I think that's you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's one of the things we connect with. Like in general, I'm very comfortable on the show, doing this podcast. I'm very comfortable on stage. I'm comfortable on set, acting, but like in that's only like 3% of my life. So like 97% of the time,
you're deeply uncomfortable.
Just a little out. And I think like attracts like, and I think you and I are both going like, what do we do? Like, what do we do with our hands? Like, how many sandwiches?
My hand, I'm like,
how many sandwiches is the right amount?
Yeah. I just realized that you don't have to eat a pint of ice cream. I literally just realized you can eat a quart.
A quart, like the bigger one.
Yeah, you could just go to the quart.
You're doing a full quart press?
Or maybe a quart over the whole course of a day. Where you'll like get some chocolate syrup, pour it all over the top of the quart, do half. Write for a few hours, and then
go back.
I'm going to go kill that quart.
But you and I also have that in common. We have the food wound.
The food is the ultimate wound.
With kids, too, I was talking to Val about this. It's almost like I fundamentally don't trust people who don't eat. Like if someone can put the lid back on a Ben & Jerry's and put it in the freezer, I look at them like they just killed a baby dog or something. I'm just kind of like,
I look at anyone healthy. I look at anyone healthy as basically having anorexia.
Yes, something's up.
Right? Like I feel like they have control issues.
Something's up.
Or something.
I go right there.
But it's not that they do. They don't. Yeah. But in my head, because I'm so fucked up, I want them to be fucked up.
Of course.
So when I see anyone go, I'll just have a salad and chicken and no oil on that, in my head, I'm like, there's something seriously wrong with them. That's the same as what's wrong with me.
Yes.
But no, it's probably, they're fine.
It comes out in another way. Yeah. Well, I'm very fast to be like, oh, it's compulsive. You know, in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and by the way, I always say this when we talk, I'm not just doing this for your benefit. These are my references. Okay. You know what I mean? Like
they're all Russell Brand references.
They're only Russell Brand. I'm a huge
They're
RB.
only Diddy references. Are you only going to mention people who are in trouble?
On the way to the bathroom, Russell Brand's in one of your murals. Do you know that? I'm not saying you need to scrub.
Oh, that I have a picture there.
There's a picture where he's kind of, and I was like,
really?
Oh. And then I was going to look for Diddy, and I was going to take pictures of both of them.
Yeah.
Send it to you.
We're literally looking all across the building like, where else did we have a Diddy thing?
Yeah.
Right?
You got to.
It just changes the quality of it all. I was just saying last night.
Terminex will get rid of your Diddy pictures. They do termites, gnats.
You have to tell an assistant, look for things with Diddy. Make sure they're not prominent. Maybe they can be there, but not prominent.
We can have an album he produced.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's like a director right now who's like, what do we do with the Usual Suspects poster?
Yeah, of course.
Right? For everybody.
It's a thing.
But I was thinking that, when things come up and people get in trouble like Cosby or something, and then you're just like, no one should watch the Cosby Show.
Yes.
And suddenly then you have like a movie you made.
Yes.
And you're like, well, I mean, there's other actors in there. I mean, it's not fair to the director and the writer just because he did awful things that we can't enjoy the other. Like, you instantly become a hypocrite.
That's funny and difficult. It is. When I was unpacking my office, I found Why Is There Air, the Bill Cosby record, and it was the only one that had shattered. And I was like, how perfect. Yeah. How sad and heavy. But you did cast both Diddy and Russell Brand in Get Him to the Greek. Do you feel like something's wrong with you?
No. Well, the funny thing about that is you feel weird because it's not just you cast them. You found them to be the most delightful people in the world.
Yeah, you were taken with them.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God.
This is incredible.
There has to be a moment you go up to Diddy and you're like, you're a natural, man. Don't change. Don't change.
What you
and you go, everything you're doing, don't change
this character you've created, this terrifying, intense record company guy.
Yeah.
It's a riot.
Did you watch the P. Diddy reality show where he made his assistants walk?
Yeah.
I watched that humorlessly. I was like, this isn't, I'm not trying to be ahead of the curve. I'm just saying, I was like, that's never funny. I never thought
I don't think I even took the time to
good.
register it.
Yeah.
Like, because Chappelle made fun of it and it was hilarious.
Oh, he did?
And I don't think I ever really thought what it means. I really just thought when we did the movie, this will be hilarious in the movie.
Yeah.
And he seems to have a sense of humor about how crazy this type of talk and behavior is.
Right.
He's satirizing it like we would do at Larry Sanders.
Right.
But in my mind, it wasn't like, but privately, it's a billion times worse.
Right.
I didn't think that.
Of course.
I just thought,
and
an eccentric person.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
But it is also why you're attracted to certain people in movies like Russell and P. Diddy, because they're big characters.
Right.
And you think in a story, they're going to really screw somebody up.
Yeah, it's believable that they're huge enough to fuck the whole thing.
Like your nightmare is to escort Russell Brand
that's
across
the
the country.
That's the joke.
Yeah. And so that's why, and they're in on the joke. They understand the joke.
Right.
But you don't realize how deep it is what you've tapped into.
Right.
That you're just like, oh, this will be funny. This is playing funny.
Right.
But like whatever their pain, their madness, their sense of destruction, you don't sense it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm just like one of those people like, I never assume anyone is like that.
For sure.
Right? And also people who are kind of making you laugh.
I'll go so far as I never thought anyone was on cocaine. I know that's like sort of the naivety we made fun of on Crashing, but that's completely real. Like later in life, I found out, that's how everyone was staying up so late. Like at 1 a.m., I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And everyone's like, woo! I'm like, oh.
Yeah, because I didn't think about any of that stuff. I just wanted to work because I thought, I gotta break in this business. I don't have time to be high.
Yeah.
I don't even have time to have fun. I'm just like, I want to get in.
Well,
I'm nervous that I won't get in. I won't figure out how to do this.
Well, that's the fundament. That goes back to the wound. And I'm staying on that to be interesting, not just to be sensitive and squishy. But there is like the outsider thing that we're talking about that was in your childhood. Like you tell that story about the girl that you didn't want to say goodbye to.
Oh, yes.
That story. Will you tell that story? Because that story, I think, informs the way you went about show business.
It's a dirty story, but it's basically...
I forgot the dirty part. I just remember the shower part.
Well, let's just say, for the sake of this, it's a story about being very young and having a girl get very aggressive
with you
to do things I hadn't done yet.
Yes.
right? And then afterwards,
I'm remembering.
I was like, what just happened? And she was like sleeping over the house. I'm in middle school, like in the guest room. And the next morning, I was so thrown and ashamed by the whole thing that I went in the shower intending to not get out till her parents had picked her up.
Right.
And so in the joke, I'm just like, my dad's knocking at the door, like, her mom's here. You want to say goodbye? And I'm like, I'm still conditioning my hair. I have a lot of loofah work to do.
Okay, this is going to sound, that's really funny. This is going to sound, or I'm worried it might sound false, but the way that I relate to that is I vividly remember being around that age, and my mom had a friend coming over, and she was like, and she has a girlfriend your age, or she has a daughter your age coming. And when they came in, I ran up into my bedroom. I had a bass guitar that I had never played. And it was like egg-shaped. It was something you'd see in like The Who. It was not like a chill...
Cheap trick guitar.
Yeah. It wasn't casual. Like it wouldn't rest on my leg. It was oblong. It was very strange. And I just pretended to be sitting on the bed playing the bass when this young girl came in. And
women love walking by a room and you're like, doom, 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 doom.
On an egg-shaped bass. And here's actually what I'm remembering now about that story is later, remember when you were a kid and a day would feel like a week? Like you'd hang out so intensely. That was the only time I ever hung out with that girl. And later in the day, I told her that I had manufactured that scene because I felt like she knew the real me and we laughed about it.
Wow.
Never saw her again.
That's
but
bonding.
That's exactly right. That was one of those formative things where I was like, oh, you can get past the bullshit and actually talk.
I never saw the girl again.
I'm sure you didn't.
And I mention her on stage every night. I'm like, is she here? Is she here?
You're looking for her.
I need a closure.
Yours is traumatic, though. You went further than you wanted to go.
Oh, yeah.
And then you hid from
that
her.
I had ever conceived of going at that point. Because usually with your friends, you go, what's next?
Yeah.
And you have some discussion of how you would do it.
Yeah. Had you
so
done
she
that?
skipped a couple of stages on me. And so I was just like, I'm not prepared. I have no game plan for this.
It is sex is so weird. It's so
the
weird.
fact that the kids do it.
I know.
Right? Like at an age where they should not do it.
Can't.
Or not even be, they should just hold hands longer. Can we get that?
I want to hold your hand.
Do you remember when the guys had
so
the rings that they wouldn't have sex?
The promise rings.
Was it the Jonas Brothers?
Yeah. I think the
that's
Jonas.
Nice.
That is nice.
That's nice.
And I've always said nobody has better sex than the deeply religious. Because if
Really?
you're wearing like a no ring,
Yeah.
then you finally blow an O-ring. Oh no, I'm just saying. Nothing is better. The restraint. It sounds like I'm making fun of it.
It's tantric even.
It's tantric-y. There's something about when you cook a meal for yourself, it's a better meal.
Yeah.
That's what it's and when I say it's kinky, I'm not putting it down.
Yeah.
It's adding to the eroticism of it and just jumping to it. It's like, all right.
We were making a movie once. I won't say who it was, but in like an interview with the New York Times, someone was sitting in on rehearsals and things, and one of the actors tells an anecdote about losing his virginity to a babysitter at 10.
Oh no.
But tells it like it's this hilarious story.
Oh God.
And then we were all like, oh, that's just a molestation.
Yeah.
That's not like the hilarious lose your virginity to the babysitter story. And then like we're calling the New York Times begging them, can you at least just say 14 in the article?
It's a 0 or a 4. What's the big deal?
They didn't print the story.
Oh, good.
But it was like,
well, that's a thing. Did you watch Transparent, where Jay Duplass's character had an affair, or not an affair? I guess he just had sex with his high school teacher, and it really does a really good job of unpacking. But I did, and certainly you did, grow up in a time where I've even heard
he
jokes.
did like a flashback. You mean, or
in high school? So he's I guess he's like 13 years old, 14 years old. And he's having sex with his 30-something-year-old professor or teacher.
Wait, how do they even stage that on the show?
You don't see it.
Okay.
They're still together. You didn't watch Transparent?
I did to a certain point. I probably.
It's a later season.
It's a later season.
I think it's a later season.
Wasn't even a choice not to catch the last season.
I understand.
You know, like the drift that happens because it takes so long for the seasons to return.
I have a kid. I'm
on season 2 of Game of Thrones. I haven't. Doesn't mean I'm not going to finish Transparent. By the way.
Yeah.
It just means I have 6 more seasons of Game of Thrones.
I have a lot of. You're backed up.
I haven't even watched the Lord of the Rings, the movies. Then I got to do the TV show. I haven't done the Hobbit.
From what I've heard, you don't have to do the TV show. Not shots fired. I'm just saying. I'm trying to unburden you that you don't have to.
Well, I have to because I'm a completist.
You have to
of all television
and all Tolkien
of all.
No. You won't read the books, but you have to watch the
I've never read the books, and I've seen 20 minutes of the first movie, and then my kids who were very young were like, they were disinterested. I was kind of really excited to watch, and my kids were just too young and disinterested, and I couldn't get anyone in the house to care. Yeah. And I just gave up because I'm like, I'm not going to sit alone for 3.5 hours watching this.
Well, Kumail and Emily, we used to do it with them. They watch it every Christmas.
All 3?
Over the the December month.
Yeah. What does it mean when you do something like that?
OCD.
Is it?
I'm just kidding.
Like it's a comfort thing. Like to watch it like 9 hours every year.
Every year?
Yeah.
I think there is I'll call it aggressive nostalgia. Meaning you don't want to watch the movie, you want to feel how you felt when you watched it the first time. And I bet they would agree with that.
I'm trying to think if there's anything I go back to like that.
Val and I are rewatching Cheers, and it's just to feel like we're 11 years old again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll go back to Taxi that way.
Exactly.
But I haven't had a pure experience of liking it as much as back then. You know what I am going back watching? Just to like, because now that the world is so crazy, you feel safe watching old things.
Yes, of course.
Which I never quite got. Everyone was like, after 9/11, we all watched the Carol Burnett anniversary special and felt better. I didn't have that instinct.
Yeah.
But now I just watch Phil Donahue. Just random.
To see the issues they were dealing with?
I'll just watch and they're really like, it's weird. Like, this person is gay. Like it's early. Like
this person claims to be an atheist.
Yeah, no, it's like, and he's very judgmental. He's more judgmental than I remember.
Recall, really?
He had like Jessica Hahn on. Remember Jessica Hahn? And she was like the secretary who had the affair with Jim Baker.
Okay,
the preacher, and then I guess she was in Playboy magazine.
Yeah, and
got paid a lot of money. Yeah, and then all like the New York Post was attacking her. How can you accuse him of this, and then you're in Playboy.
Yeah.
And then Phil Donahue is just like, what does your family think about this?
Oh my gosh.
You put him through all the other stuff.
And now
you're naked in the magazine. Like it was
not chill.
It was not chill. It was a little condescending. And then she looks him right in the eye and says, I didn't have control over that. I'm not ashamed of my body. I have control over it. And this is something I want to do. And I think that the female form is beautiful, and I'm really proud of it.
So she ages well. Her response
is fantastic.
Nailed it.
Fantastic. And she embarrassed him. Like
really,
you could see him kind of like realize that he was going hard in a really judgmental direction. But I love it. Like I'll put on like any Donahue.
Yeah.
So one Donahue was like all the ex-wives of celebrities.
Oh,
they're here talking to Glenn Campbell's first wife. and
just calms you down.
Because when I was a kid, I would sit and watch Phil Donahue every day, like from like 7th grade to like 10th, 11th grade. And that's how I learned what adults thought and what they did. And
well, that goes back to like wanting to get a playbook on what to do. Yeah. And have we talked about like as a director, but also just anybody in show business, it really is like a control freak's paradise, meaning everything's regimented. There's these scenes. You literally have the script weeks in advance. Here's what they're going to say. Yeah. Here's what they're going to do. When you do a stunt, it's like the most controlled thing in the world. They bring in the car and there's the guy and there's all this stuff. And you just kind of like feel so calm compared to regular reality. Like we're just out there. Yeah. Who knows?
Anything can happen
today. Yeah. You're in a store and someone you think you're supposed to know walks in and you're like, no script. Yeah. Nobody calls cut. Are you attracted to that? Like, here, let's almost like the movie Schenectady, New York. Mm-hmm. Remember, it's like, let's make put on your list, small world that's kind of like the real world, but we can control it. We can have more laughs.
Yes.
We can call cut. This is where I sit. I mean, does that all appeal to you? I have to imagine it
About
does.
being on a set. I mean, it depends. If I'm directing, I'm just so nervous that it's going to work.
Oh, really?
So I'm kind of having fun, but also half as stressed as you can be watching it, just going, is this scene working? Will the scene work in the story?
Yeah.
Is the story working? What are we shooting the next 3 weeks? Like, there's a lot of ongoing stress. And then if I'm just watching as a producer, I'm like, this is fun. I have nothing to do. Do I have to stay? You know what I mean? Like, if it's going well at some point.
Which do you prefer, though? The overwhelm of everything to do, or is there anything to do?
Yeah, it really depends on on a set. If there's fun people around, you know, I mean, sometimes there's things to do on a set as a producer, but usually if you've produced well, when you get to the set, there isn't anything for you to do.
Right.
That means you did a good job. The script's good, the cast is good, the director's good, and they can just go do your thing, and they don't want you fucking with them.
Okay, so the latchkey kind of kid watching Donahue, is it fair to call you a latchkey?
Yeah. I mean, because I lived with my dad.
Yeah.
And my dad was working, and I would just come home. And
again, I relate hard to that. Yeah. My mom was home, but I went straight to the basement and was like now I watch these videos called Zach Morris's Trash, and it's making fun of how bad of a character Zach Morris is in Saved by the Bell. But I was watching that as if it was like here's how to be in high school. And I was like, ready, lean on your locker. Yeah. Call everybody a cool nickname, you know, like learn magic.
But that seems more normal to watch Saved by the Bell.
You're watching Donahue.
I'm watching I'm not watching like Dinah. I'm watching Dinah Shore.
Well, I don't even know what that is.
Dinah Shore was like the Mike Douglas show, or Dinah Shore and Merv Griffin. Like they were variety talk shows. Yeah, kind of like the Tonight Show during the day.
And do you think you were looking for that like lesson on how to like talk and be?
Well, Donahue was like. I didn't know it at the time. I was just fascinated by adults. Yeah, I couldn't even define it for you. I didn't even know why I was watching Donahue, and no one ever asked me why I was watching Donahue. I don't think there was one person my entire childhood who was like, "You watch Donahue?" No one checked in on me. I had no friends. I would watch if a friend came over. I wouldn't go, "You want to watch Donahue with me?" Yeah. It was just like this private thing that I did, and and then
I had that with A Current Affair. I'll join you on there.
I think all the Inside Edition, those things.
I loved show business. I loved Tales of Hollywood because it seemed like a transparent reality. It's like they talk about divorce, they talk about addiction, and most people are pretending like nothing's happening.
There was a guy named Stanley Siegel at a talk show at night, and he would have on like punk rockers and you know like night people in the city. Yes. And today we're going to interview heroin addicts.
Yes.
And
like
I was fascinated.
Confessions. Like the real. Yeah. Now YouTube is our playground.
Now it's everything.
Yeah.
But then it was like hard to find stuff like that. Now you can go on YouTube and just watch like serial killer interrogations for 17 hours in a row. my kids are doing that. Like, what are you doing? I'm watching interrogations. Like that's like you're not watching a TV show.
Yeah. I'm watching the Jinx, the raw footage.
It's really interesting to see the games they play to crack these guys, Dad. You know. But if I was a kid, that's what I would watch.
Yeah.
And I could see watching it for hours.
I've thought about this before. If I got murdered walking in my car or something, I think my last thought as I bled out would be like, this is going to be at least a 2-part docuseries. Like I'd be dying going like, dun.
Did enough happen to make this, to stretch this out?
I'd kind of hope.
Yeah.
That would be that's the new headstone.
Yeah.
It's a 2-part docuseries.
Is it not a 1-part, not an hour Dateline, or 2 hour, 48 hours?
I mean, you can dream for like a 6 or 8 part.
Yeah.
Like
he was a comedian.
King. Yeah.
He even had his own show.
It depends.
Twice.
They think I'm Ike Barinholtz. So it's like the Ike murders. They thought I was someone else.
They killed the wrong person.
Oh my God. That's fair. Yeah. But I mean, that is the world we live in. But I'm looking for when it came to laughing, and this seems kind of a corny question, but I think I'm in the right zone. Life, confusing, where do I go? More of a geek than a freak. Mm-hmm. Laughing was the sonar ping you let out to go like, is anyone else feeling this way? Yeah. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, but it started so early, like Abbott and Costello was on constantly in New York when I was a kid. I mean, all day on the weekends. There was just a lot of Abbott and Costello, a lot of Marx Brothers movies.
Just ripping through them.
Just watching every Sunday, you would watch like a Marx Brothers movie, an Abbott
So
and
you
Costello
owe a
movie.
debt to like the local programming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it morphed into Cosby, George Carlin, Lenny Bruce Records.
Yeah.
You know, and then TV. Suddenly, like, who are these comics on TV?
Yeah.
Jeff Altman and Seinfeld and Leno and
Yeah.
David Brenner.
Yeah.
And on some level, I just was attracted to them. I think they felt like me. Like, I'm kind of like that.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of them were from Long Island.
That's right.
And they were just like, isn't this fucked up? And
Well,
I was fascinated by that. Just, isn't this weird?
Yeah.
And I think I just thought everything was weird.
Yeah.
So like, you know, have you ever seen this? Like, to me, like, I'm fascinated by like, yes.
That's how I felt. I was like, someone else. I've said this before, but art is highly sensitive people reporting what reality is like to the rest of the group, like to people who might not be as sensitive. And when I heard Seinfeld going like, cotton balls, women need cotton balls, men don't need cotton balls.
Yeah.
And then he tried, when I say he tried, it's not like a classic bit. He was like, and then men open up a prescription bottle and know what's inside? A cotton ball. Like, he tied it in.
Couldn't have loved it more.
And I was watching that going like, oh my God. And I remember reading sign language, and he had a joke about the Garden of Eden and how God was the original matchmaker. He set up Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And he says to Adam, she had a thing with a snake, but I think that's over.
Yeah.
And I read that and I was like, it was literally like an earthquake. It was like a formative moment. I'm in the parking lot of a Caldor in Burlington, Massachusetts. I'm reading a joke. My mom's in the car that I could tell her. I could tell her the joke. And I was like, this is unbelievable. There's a way to do this that isn't just like I saw Eddie Murphy and I was just like, I can't do that. Like I'd never dare to be that. You know,
you can now.
Blue. I can now. Even now, there are certain things that Eddie says that I'm just like, he's fearless. He's beyond fearless. He doesn't care. I've got my care down to a good level. I care just enough to make myself comfortable. So do you remember the first laugh? This is such a stock question, but I've never asked you. As a kid, like getting a big laugh, that moment, like Seinfeld made his friend shoot milk out his nose. Do you have a moment, like some project you did in high school or some talent show that you did where you were like, oh, I think maybe I can be funny?
It's hard for me to remember. I have a really bad memory.
Yeah.
So
crank phone calls with Sandler. I'll prime you.
yeah, I mean, well, no, but like when we were kids, we would do crank phone calls and things like that. But when I think of being a kid, I have these very vague memories of being in elementary school and forcing the school to let me put on a variety show.
What?
And now I don't remember what it was. But like I would like at lunch, like all the kids would hang out like in the gym, and I would go like, I want to put on a show, and I did something. Like my version of what a sketch was, or
by yourself? You don't know.
Once I roped a friend into doing it with me. I don't even really remember, but I do remember there were moments when I could force like large groups to look at me do something.
Yes.
I don't know if I wrote Weekend Update jokes or.
I remember that when there'd be talent shows, I would do W.C. Fields, and I didn't even know why it was funny. But I'd say to somebody like, get out of here, kid, you bother me.
Yeah.
And all the grown-ups would laugh, and I just didn't know what was happening.
When you're 4'2", that's funny.
Exactly. And I'm wearing like one of those very light styrofoam hats, like a barbershop quartet hat.
Yeah.
So I also had that impulse. And then, so when did you meet? Sandler was college?
After college.
After college.
Yeah.
And you went into the city?
I saw him once in the city do stand up.
Oh, you saw him
like
as
late
a
at
performer.
night, yeah. And I might have said hello, but then I met him again, literally like the week he moved to L.A.
Okay.
We bumped into each other at the Improv.
And as young men, though, I mean,
like 21, 22.
Yeah.
In there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's funny now to be older because there's so much nostalgia about it. Like it used to be like it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
But now when you're like, so that was like 87, 86, 87.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's like a long time.
I know. I briefly, I didn't have to do any research to talk to you, but I thought I'd give it a look. And it's like Knocked Up was like 2000,
7?
7.
Well, it's 20 years till 40-Year-Old Virgin. Next year is the 20th anniversary of the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh my God.
So yesterday I had to go
So
look
he's
at
a 60-year-old virgin.
He's had sex once in the last
That
20
was a hand
years.
job.
It never happened again.
You told me once in confidence that they don't have sex at the end. It's a hand job.
Yeah.
He's still a virgin. Wait, we can do it.
We can do that movie right
We
now.
can do the 60-year-old
That's the
virgin.
opening scene is like...
They've fudged things. George Lucas has changed the universe
You can
way
just
more
open it.
than
You
that.
can open it
It's
up.
like Joker Part 2.
Yeah.
They just start and you're like, oh, he just started a revolution. And it's like, no, he's a loser again. It just like reset.
Yeah, you gotta
So you can
reset.
do that with 60-year-old virgin. Poor Judd. You've had a whole life.
He's an anal virgin.
There you go. Yeah.
Done.
Analingus virgin. He has done anal, but he hasn't done analingus. He's given analingus.
Yeah, there's always something more to do. But so I had to go watch the 40-Year-Old Virgin yesterday. First time I saw it in 19 years. No, just to remaster the sound and the picture.
Oh my God.
So it looks incredible, like because it was looking like a movie from like the late 60s.
Yeah.
Like for some reason it just looked bad.
Yeah.
And suddenly it looks like I shot it this morning.
Really?
It like looked really good.
That's
They
awesome.
Fixed all the sound and but I hadn't watched it
In a long time.
in 19 years.
Yeah.
And it is wild to watch something, with that distance because everyone looks hungry in it.
Yeah.
Every actor and actress looks like
going.
they're going hard. They care at the highest level. They are trying to score.
Yes.
They're trying to make it in the business. They're trying to make the movie work.
Yes.
You could see the passion in their eyes.
Yes.
And it suddenly all makes sense.
Yeah.
Like from a distance.
Right.
Like, I mean, everybody, Steve, everyone is like,
It's a
this
bunch of
is the
killers.
moment.
Yep.
And everyone feels it.
They all have knives biting in their teeth, swinging on a pirate rope onto another ship.
Yeah, and
to, like,
people
fuck
don't hold
shit up.
on to it that long. I mean, it's hard to.
I know.
I mean, you only have that moment of madness.
Yeah.
Not that people don't work hard and don't do great work, but
what
there's
was-
something about the look in Chris Mintz-Plase's eyes in Superbad.
Yeah, that's right.
That's very specific to like a moment
Right.
in your life, at,
That's
at an
right.
age in your life.
That's right.
And then as I was watching it, when you watch something that you did a long time ago, in a way, you don't feel like you were a part of it. Like, I don't feel like I made it.
Yeah.
So I can watch it.
Yeah.
And also, I had forgotten 90% of the jokes.
I was just going to say, what is the joke? Because for me, you say 40-year-old virgin.
Mm-hmm.
I go right to Everybody Loves Raymond. That's just a good show.
Yeah.
It's Paul Rudd taking out the porno tape. He goes, everybody. And that's actually one of the moments where I was like, oh, Paul, no shade on Paul Rudd, but I was like, oh, he's fucking hilarious. Like, that's a really funny moment.
Yeah.
He does it in that kind of classic Rudd way.
Yeah.
But that's the joke. What is the joke from 40-Year-Old Virgin that you do remember, that you think of? None of them.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I'll be honest with you. Like, almost none of them. Like, I didn't like. I was like, oh, there's a hair wax scene, or
Right.
Like, I don't.
Right.
I always would talk about. I love the Elizabeth Banks scene where
Yeah.
Steve only talks in questions to her.
Yeah. Yes, I like that scene.
But things were real. I was really laughing, like hard.
Right.
Right, like I had like a normal audience's like initial reaction to it because I couldn't remember any of the jokes.
Yeah.
Like that whole run where Seth is talking about going to Tijuana to see like a woman have sex with a horse.
Right.
And
I
then-
felt bad for the horse.
Yeah, I felt bad for the horse.
Yeah.
I felt bad for her. I felt bad for the horse. He's like, it was troubling.
Well,
like I was just watching how funny Seth was. And I'd kind of forgotten the run.
Yeah.
And that kept happening. But then I noticed just like Rudd he looks like he has a baby face.
He does have a baby face.
And in the end, I got very emotional. Like I kind of like welled up when everyone started dancing. I was just like, wow, what a moment where everyone is firing, everyone is funny, everything's kind of working, and everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
Like it really like hit me. Like that was something. Because when that movie came out, my mom was sick. My mom was like dying of like ovarian cancer, and I found out when I was in the editing room. And so it just kind of knocked me out of enjoying it.
Oh, wow.
Even though it was killing in the test screenings and all the marketing looked good, everyone was excited.
Yeah.
And then I went to North Carolina to shoot Talladega Nights with Will and Adam, and came back for the premiere in a couple of days, but wasn't really in town when it opened. So all the buzz around it, I was on a racetrack.
Wow.
And I didn't get like the feeling of success and the pride and sharing it with everyone just a couple of times at a couple of events. And so it was wild to watch it later and go, God damn, look at everyone crushing it. Look at Jane Lynch.
Yeah.
Mindy Kaling.
I just got back from a traveling day, and the first thing I did when I got home was lay down on my SHAKTI mat. What is a SHAKTI mat? Well, it was the quickest and easiest way to melt away all that stress and tension that I accumulated on the airplane and driving around today. It's basically like a bed of nails. Have you ever laid on a bed of nails? I do, all the time. On my SHAKTI mat, whenever I'm feeling stressed or have tension in my neck, shoulders, arms, and my back, it is an acupressure mat, which is thousands of tiny spikes that releases muscle tension, boosts circulation, and melts away stress, and I am obsessed. Sure, sometimes I get massage, but massage costs a fortune, can be hard to fit into your schedule, you get all oily and naked, and it's not available the second I notice I need one. But with my SHAKTI mat, I feel that tension, I feel that stress in my tightness, in my muscles. I unfurl my SHAKTI and I lay down, and the pain and the tension melts away. It couldn't be easier, and you can do it on demand as much as you need, and you only pay for it once. And I use it hundreds of times a year. It's always there for you on demand. It is intense. It's one of the things I love about it. If you're looking for a gift for somebody that you just don't know what to get, and they're into feeling good, and they're also kind of quirky, this is a great gift. It's a little intense. In the beginning, it is like lying on spikes, but within minutes, the discomfort fades away into a deep warmth. In about 20 minutes, you feel completely relaxed. The first time I used it, I actually fell asleep. Like cold exposure or deep tissue work or sauna, the release and the wonderful feeling that you get is on the other side of that small amount of discomfort. And SHAKTI does just that. I've tried other kinds of acupressure mats, and there's no comparison. SHAKTI is the sharpest on the market and the only one that works for me. Handmade in India by people paid fairly with the highest quality materials, and I can vouch for that. Deeper sleep, stress relief, muscle relaxation, better circulation, mental clarity, and just a general sense of well-being whenever you need it. SHAKTI mats are my secret weapon for reliable serenity and relief. Support this show, support your body. Go to SHAKTImat.com, SHAKTIMAT.com, and use promo code WEIRD30 as the code, and you will get 30% off. 30% off any SHAKTI mat, SHAKTImat.com. We're also brought to us by our friends at ONNIT, at Alpha Brain. You know I swear by Alpha Brain. I was doing these shows in Denver. Every show, before the show, I would take 3, sometimes 4 Alpha Brain, Black Label, sometimes the regular one. I try them all. I love them all. It is a nootropic. What does that mean? It's earth-grown ingredients. It's not a stimulant. It's not like caffeine. It doesn't get you jacked up. It just gives you, your brain, the nutrition that it needs, the earth-grown nutrition it needs to function at its optimum. I'm talking about memory. I'm talking about focus, concentration, recall. I'm talking about creativity, dropping you into that flow state. You can access your memories. Anything that you're doing that involves your brain, in my experience, Alpha Brain makes it so much easier to use your noggin. It is amazing, an absolute game changer, and you can try it with 10% off by going to ONNIT, ONNIT.com/weird. Use promo code WEIRD at checkout. 10% off everything you see on that landing page there, ONNIT.com/weird. I wish I knew about it in school. I'm so glad I know about it now. If you like it 1/10 as much as I like it, it's going to blow your mind. Get your brain in the game with Alpha Brain. Go to ONNIT.com/weird. Support your brain, support the show. All right, back to the app. I don't know if it was you, but you seem to be the pioneer, at least to my understanding, of like the guy that was like, let's get not just actors, but the funniest people, and let's do a lot of takes and let them play. Yeah. But that wasn't really happening? Question mark.
I'm sure there were people, doing it to a certain extent. It was just a massive embrace of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure Bill Murray was always riffing.
Right.
But maybe not the other people.
But that was always like, oh, that's what Bill does. But you were the director that was
not
like,
as the entire movie
culture. I always think of Jonah Hill in I believe it's in Knocked Up. Yeah, it's in Knocked Up, where there's a downbeat. A downbeat is before the scene starts, there's maybe a little joke. And I feel like you as a director were like, and also them as the cast, let's not waste any of those. And Jonah just goes, you ever play this game where you take 3 Tylenol PM and try to masturbate before you fall asleep?
Yeah.
Long pause. It's fun because you always win.
Yeah.
And then the scene starts. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm watching that. Well, now I'm watching it. I'm like, I bet Judd was like, play. Say something.
Judd was like, I did that.
Maybe. No. I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I'm just saying, like, let's pack every corner. If Jonah has it, Jonah do it.
Yeah.
Seth, do it. Like the Tijuana horse story, I have to imagine was Seth just fucking around trying to get in the movie, like taking advantage of that fire that people were feeling. Is that
Well,
correct?
it probably was like an idea. He tells a filthy story.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that was the scripted one or not. Clearly, he riffed on it.
Right.
Like, because the response from Steve, it's like, I had a pretty crazy weekend too. Like, I was trying to make this egg salad sandwich and I didn't have eggs.
Right.
And he
So
goes
it's
on
in the
this run.
script. Clearly it's in the
Well,
script.
the
'cause we
idea of
need
it is
this
in the
idea.
script.
We need this moment.
He's got a terrible, like, dirty weekend story, and Steve has nothing story.
The game is established.
Yeah, and that's the game.
Yes.
And as I watched the movie, I remembered the alternate version of Steve's story, which was that he spent his whole weekend trying to organize his extension cords. But in great detail, all the different power cords, and some are really too long to get, because there's too much extra cords. I'm trying to use the short ones for objects that are close to the wall, and so that was fun. But that was kind of what it was. But we had improvised at the Ben Stiller show. Ben liked to do a lot of improv.
Yeah.
So I saw Ben do it, but that wasn't like scripted storytelling. And then we did heavyweights.
Yeah.
And, we would riff a bit with Ben. And I would see at Larry Sanders that in rehearsals, Gary would not full improv, but loosen it up, try things.
Yeah.
And I had seen like videos of Bill Murray on the set of Stripes really going off.
Yeah.
And I knew Paul Reiser did that during Diner, that he had made up most of that stuff.
Right.
So I think my thought, and it was very much inspired by Ben, was to encourage Adam McKay, who would have done it anyway. Like, he was from an improv background, and so was the cast of Anchorman or Groundlings or Second City.
Right.
To say, like, let's make a choice to play on this set.
Right.
Well,
the cameras.
It wasn't my idea. I mean, I'm sure McKay was going to do it anyway. But just in my head as a producer, I was very aware to budget, to schedule that this was not a fast shoot.
Right.
Right. That Adam and Will had the time with the cast to play.
Right.
And then I think because it worked so well, how Adam did it, and no one has ever been better at feeding lines and ideas and running improv on a set than Adam McKay.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff he yells out, it's crazy. The level of it.
On Veep, he yelled out, "The order still stands," to Dick Cheney. I tried to think of a very serious line for Dick Cheney.
Oh, I thought you were talking about, you said Veep, and that's not what it was called.
Vice.
You ruined your own joke.
I ruined it. Let's do it again. I mean, the whole podcast. We're going to start over.
But anyway, that worked really well. And I had done some pilots before then. I did one with Amy Poehler and Jason Segel and Kevin Hart, where because I was inspired by Curb Your Enthusiasm, which had been on one season, and I was like, oh, maybe we could have a script, but also do what Larry's doing.
Yeah.
So we start with a script, but then we could kind of drop it or loosen it.
Right.
And so there were a few times that I had experimented with like pilots that didn't get picked up. And we did some on Freaks and Geeks and Undeclared where we would loosen it. But then I think it was with 40-Year-Old Virgin, like, oh, even with the story elements, or as these stories become more real, you could still improvise.
Yeah.
But off of a script that you think is enough.
Yeah.
Always like the script is as strong as you can make it, and then you could drift.
There were 2 notes I remember you telling me. Who gave you the note that in 40-Year-Old Virgin he should have the toys in the packaging? Do you remember?
Chris Brown.
Yeah. I love that that flew in and that you were well, smart enough to take it. To
Yeah,
be
our
honest,
friend Chris
that's such a
Brown, who
great
wrote
thing.
out Undeclared, and he wrote Drill Bit Taylor.
And then somebody
Seth
told
Rogen.
you,
Yeah, he said he goes. It's like he is the toy in the box. That's what he said.
Yeah.
He is the guy.
Yeah.
Stuck in the box.
Right.
And then suddenly the metaphor of the toys, and that he didn't want to open them.
Right.
And that he freaked out when she wanted to open them.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also the musical number, was that Harold Ramis? Somebody told you.
No, well, what happened was Shanling said, you need to show the sex.
That's what it is.
And we didn't know how to do it. And then Carell said, maybe I just sing a song.
Wow.
And then I was like, well, what about like Let the Sun Shine In from Hair?
Wow.
And I don't think we even thought of it as a dance in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then at some point, we had a great choreographer, and she created this amazing dance. And I had never seen a Bollywood movie. Maybe it was inspired by Bollywood. Yeah. But I had never seen it. Then afterwards, people were like, they do that in India all the time.
Right. The final act is like everyone dancing.
Yeah.
Well, you also have that in Trainwreck, and then you have that in Bridesmaids. It's not really a dance in Bridesmaids.
Well, there's a song they
sing,
the Wilson Phillips.
Now you watch movies, and this is just how things go. Like now, sometimes you see a comedy that's been scrapped together, and at the end, they're just kind of doing it because it's the end. It's the end of the movie.
Yeah. That's why it was fun with Four Door Virgin. It was just so organic.
Yeah.
And it was an expression of something. But like in watching it now, it really feels like it's a blossoming of the group.
Yeah.
So to see them all dancing and happy,
it's
almost like we broke through.
Right.
We're working.
Right.
We have employment.
Right. It's so funny and so perfect. All right, so there's a lot of things I'm just going to say up top.
Did you write questions before this? Like, how do you prepare for this?
Well, I know the things that have changed in life. I do just fly in. But there are things that I was just going to say, if there's anything I ask, because we are friends and I know about your life, that you want, obviously we're not live streaming. We'll just take it out. So just know that. Because I did think it was funny that you eat through Ozempic. I thought that was really funny.
Yes.
Are you comfortable talking about that?
Yes.
Because I told Val about that this morning.
Yeah. It's Mounjaro, which is a alternate, but it is basically.
So Ozempic reduces your appetite.
Yes.
And Val and I were talking about how we're food people. And as an example of another food person, I said, Judd powers through his Ozempic.
Yes.
Would you please speak to this?
Well, when you
it's too funny.
So I was at
fight it.
Well, the funniest thing is how I started taking it was I went to some fancy nutritionist to get like my vitamins.
Yes.
And so he gives me all these vitamins, cutting edge vitamin work.
Yeah.
And then he goes and here's these injections and here's this kind of
Kurzweil's vitamin guy.
Exactly, like one of those guys. He's Dana White's guy.
Oh, okay.
He's like, you should take these semaglutide shots or you inject yourself. Now I don't know what semaglutide means, so now I'm injecting myself. And he said do it every week. I'm doing it like every 3-4 weeks. Like
you're forgetting.
I'm forgetting, or I just don't want to inject myself.
Yeah.
And it literally took me 4 months to ask him, like, what is that?
Okay, so
I'm injecting it like it's heroin in my stomach.
The story is funny before we got to the part that I thought was funny. He just told you to start injecting it, and you're like, okay.
But we didn't have like a semaglutide talk.
He just said, do this.
He was just like, here's your vitamins, take these injections. Now, he may have said like, that's for your blood sugar balance, like, so you don't get, but I'm probably not even paying attention.
Yeah.
And now I'm like injecting myself randomly. I'm like, I don't even know what this one is. And then finally I'm like, what is that? And then someone's like, it's Ozempic. So I'm like half-ass taking Ozempic for like
literally
4 months, like not even doing it enough for it to do anything. and then at some point I just said, okay, I'll try it. And so I did like a very kind of low dose for several months.
But properly.
Don't lose any weight at all for months and months and months.
It didn't suppress your appetite?
My appetite is all emotional eating.
Yeah.
So it's never mattered
that you're hungry,
that I'm physically hungry.
Yeah.
And so if I literally feel like kind of almost like I'm going to vomit sick, I'll still eat a pizza.
Right.
Right. Because I'm doing it for a different kind of numbing out.
It's like eating a blanket.
Yeah. And exactly.
From the inside.
And also it comes and goes when you're nauseous or when you're full. So like the second there's a window.
Wait, it makes you nauseous?
Yeah. Sometimes you get a little nauseous. Sometimes you just feel like food's gross, like in your
This
head.
is definitely how we get I Am Legend.
Yeah.
You know how there's like a zombie species? It's going to be Ozempic.
I think it's a hot species, but
they're very hot zombies. They're lean.
but I would like run through the hole where there was the moment where I was okay with food, and I would just pound something. And so now I'm gaining weight on the Ozempic, and then I feel kind of proud of the fact that I defeated it. Like I literally feel like, yeah, fuck you, Ozempic, but I'm still taking it. I'm still paying for it.
Respect.
But I'm like recently I suddenly like dropped a bunch of weight. You know, I went from like 207, 208. I dropped down to 192, and I'm so excited that I gained 8 pounds back. You know, like the second I was, I don't even know why. It's like right at the moment where if I just stayed in the groove, I would have been like college weight. And somehow there was a part of my mind that's like, you're not going to fucking beat us. And I just ate. And I'm still on like a little run now where my appetite has exploded and it can be parallel to the nausea.
Oh my God. You can do it even when you're nauseous.
I mean, I was saying on stage, sometimes I will inject the Ozempic with a spoon of vanilla ice cream in my mouth, like to see who wins.
Well, I've had conversations with you where we're both talking about like, we're on the phone. Oh, we're feeling good. We're having like a very lucid conversation about how food isn't the answer. We're clearly masking some sort of pain.
Yeah.
And at the end of the call, you'll be like, okay, I got to go. I'm at the ice cream place.
I'm at Sprinkles. I got to go.
That's how the call ends. And I don't say that to shame you. I relate really hard to that. There's like an unconscious thing. But you've done some internal family systems work.
Yeah.
Which is also something I'm doing, parts work.
And so I one day was like walking down the street, and no one in my family was going to be around all day, which is dangerous for me.
Yes.
Like food wise.
Yes.
Because there's a part of me that's like cake.
Right.
Who's got good cake? Like in London, I was in London. They have like amazing places. All it is like dessert places.
You just have to know they call it pudding, but just go find it.
Go get some
it's
bread
not actually
pudding.
pudding.
And I wander around, and I'm like, I can eat anything right now. Like it's such like a child who has escaped from his mom at the mall.
Well, that's what I'm getting.
I can eat anything.
That's what I'm trying. I'm the same way. Like Val goes out for the night. It's not booze. It's not drugs. It's not affairs.
Yeah.
It's like I'll find the peanut butter pretzels and they're gone.
Yeah.
We're making Leela's lunch in the morning, and it's like, where are those pretzels?
Yeah.
It's just like, whoops.
And that's where my head was at. And so then I started thinking about like the therapy stuff, and I thought, why do you want cake?
Yeah.
And in my head, it just popped in, I love you. And I realized, like in that moment, like my mom would always like give me whatever I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
But she didn't do it as like kind of giving me too much love.
Yeah.
She did it so I would like her.
Wow.
That's what I noticed in that moment. And then I just transferred that to myself.
Look at my face right now. I don't like this. You're dropping a lot.
Yeah.
I never considered
that
my mom, who when I asked for tuna melts, by the way, I say this with love, would make me 2 tuna melts. That was the standard order. And when I asked for hot dogs, would make me 4 hot dogs. 4. Might have been doing it because she's like, Pete's going to think I'm the coolest.
I think that's what it is. I mean, I know that's what it is because when I was, you know, when my kids were really little, you know, like 1, I would always come home and the kid's face was like covered in chocolate. Yeah. And I said to my mom, don't do that. Don't please. Seriously, don't do that. Yeah. And we would have no chocolate in the house.
Yeah.
And then I'd come home and just be like chocolate. They'd be asleep. Like M&M juice, like red and chocolate. And my mom, to get them to like her, would just like give them like an M&M.
Like how they lured E.T. out of the closet.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
And then at some point, like, I take that over.
Yeah.
As like, no one's around, I can be nice to you. And then it's a weird kind of demented, like, I like myself energy. Because I always thought it was like, is it a reward? Is it numbing? And I was, no, it's kind of like, it's love. Even like deeper than that. Like you're good. You deserve this.
Well, you have that great bit where you eat it. Just fucking eat it. You're good. You're fine. Just eat it. And when I come home from a show,
I totally forgot what that bit is. What is the bit?
You go, I have this voice in my head that when I'm thinking about, I don't know how you set it up, but it's like sometimes I'll be wondering if I should eat some ice cream, and a voice in my head is just like, just eat it. Just eat it. You're good. You deserve it. Just fucking eat it. And I'm like, I have that voice for sure. But especially if I'm chasing, again, Louis, scandal noted, has a bit where he's like, for affairs, there's masturbation, but for food, there's nothing. There's nothing you can do to kind of like not eat, but kind of get that. Yeah. So he's like, there's nothing, and you come home from a show, I don't want to drink, I don't want to do drugs, I don't want to have an affair. But then you're like, I should at least be able to. I told my travel agent, tell the hotels to take everything out of the minibar. I'm like, you can leave the booze. Yeah. You just can't have the Twizzlers in there. Because my voice will be like, all of it. Yeah.
Or they have fake M&Ms.
Off-brand M&Ms.
Off-brand everything, R&Rs. Right? But yeah, and sometimes like when I'm hungry, I'll try to like allow myself to feel like, what am I feeling inside? And the thought of not like ordering a chicken parmesan almost gives me a nervous breakdown.
I know what you mean. There's something sad about it.
But it's energy of like madness almost.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And because someone was saying, like, you should think before you eat, is my body hungry or my mind? Yeah. And it's almost always my mind just going, ooh. But we also love to eat for other reasons when I was a kid. Like me and my friends in high school, like we loved to go to like Beefsteak Charlie's and get all you can eat ribs. And then we would just go, wasn't that the best? Who's all you can eat ribs? How many? I had like 17 ribs.
25-cent wing.
It was like an adult thing. Like adults are allowed to order food.
All you can eat buffets? Yeah. Absolutely. What is that the voice? It's like, you deserve it. You deserve love. Like, what is the have you talked to the protector that's telling you to
like
eat?
I like you. Yeah. So let's have
I'm not just saying this because they're a sponsor, but I find that having the element, the salt, the salt drink.
I tried it the other day.
Have you ever tried it at night when you want to eat something? It's like a better Ozempic. Like, because you'll drink it and you're like, fuck, I guess that's all I wanted. It's crazy. I'm just saying that as a food helper person. Well, talking about the internal family systems, moving into some of the issues, the other, not issues, but the interesting thing that you did was ayahuasca, which led to some pretty interesting revelations that you talk about on stage. Yeah. But let's do the podcast version of that conversation. You did ayahuasca.
I did, yes.
Why?
I kind of thought that I kept reading my diaries from 30 years ago, and they were the same as yesterday.
Oh my God.
They were like, you really need to meditate. Just take 20 minutes each morning and each afternoon. Wow. And you need to just eat healthy food. Just have some chicken and salad. Like I would read like these like long entries of, get healthy lists.
And could have been yesterday.
It is yesterday. I mean, the word, the language is the same. And then just like personal problems, like the same kind of stuff. Wow. And I think
the handwriting's just a little worse.
Yeah, it is. It's like the old man handwriting. You know how like someone's handwriting completely goes from flowery to like this kind of Donald Trump-esque handwriting.
I don't think I've seen Trump's handwriting, but I can picture it perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
And so I just thought, I should do something that like gets you out of a rut. Yeah. Like I've found a way to ignore therapists since I was 22 years old. Where I know exactly what they'll say. Right. I mean, if I close my eyes, I could have the whole conversation beginning to end. Right. And so other people had said, this is a way to put your brain in a space where it can change. Right. Just chemically.
In that Michael Pollan kind of way.
Yeah. Neil Brennan talked a lot
put it aside. Yeah. No, Neil's done ayahuasca with a lot of comedians and we all have similar issues. And there's something, I haven't done ayahuasca, but there's something about like, I did a microdose of mushrooms recently and I noticed that my brain just kind of goes to the side. And those of us, I'm not saying it's special or good, but if you have an overactive mind, putting it to the side is just like, it's like the best feeling in the world. Yeah. To just be nothing. To just be kind of empty.
Yeah. It definitely does that. I mean, I could see why some people it's really bad for. Yeah. I don't recommend it because I think it randomly is hard on people. And
agree.
then if you're not prepared
I agree.
or you haven't done enough therapy or your mind can't deal with it.
No, Val is one of those people that will never do psychedelic. And this is important to say. This isn't just the show where we talk about how bulletproofly perfect psychedelic therapies are.
Yeah.
They happen to work for me. It sounds like they've done some good stuff for you. But I also live with someone that's like, I'll never do another one again.
Yeah.
Because it depleted everything she had. She was in a funk for a really long time. So with that disclaimer, you drank from the vine.
And it healed you completely.
You drank from the vine. Well, it took you to different memories. One of them was the shower memory, right?
Yeah, that story.
And then the heartbreaking story about the sex book.
Well, yeah, there was a story I tell on stage about when I was a kid. There was a book called Where Do I Come From? Which was the facts of life, but in funny cartoons.
I just read it to Leela.
Oh, you just found it?
Yeah. There are parts I skipped.
Yeah.
Because it says titties.
Yeah, it says titties.
I don't want titties.
Yeah.
I'm like, there are 2 round lumps on mommy's chest called boobs. I said that one, and I was like, or titties. I'm like, no.
I know. It's like they have some 70s
There's some
phrases.
70s.
And then
the bush is right by the gams.
Then your dad really wants some strange.
Yeah. Basically. And I was really ready to read all of it, and then I ended up skipping quite a bit of it. And not because it was overt, but because it's just, how could it?
I like
how
they have
could it not?
sperms and they're in kind of top hats and tails doing that.
Yep.
But so my friend had that book, and at like 7, I stole the book.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to read it. Because I think my parents, literally, the facts of life was like, penis goes in the vagina.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so it wasn't like a talk of love and growth in the circle of life. It was like,
You got the Long Island special.
yeah,
PP goes in vajay.
stick in hole.
Shut up. We're going to Montauk for the afternoon. Wrong accent, but you get it.
And so I took it home, and my parents became obsessed with the idea that I stole it.
They found it.
They found it.
Where were you keeping it?
I think I just had it in a knapsack. They instantly, like, by the time I got home, they already talked to my friend's mom. And so they were like, "You stole this," and I knew I was in trouble.
Wait, I'm sorry, but you didn't steal it, right?
No, I stole it.
You did steal it.
I stole it, and but I'm 7. So is anything theft at 7 or 8?
I can't handle this.
Because I just wanted to read it.
Just because Leela is 6, I've never really considered that she was she's tiny.
Yeah.
You're 7. It's tiny.
Yeah.
It's
So even
tiny.
the idea that like you're mad I took anything is so weird now that I'm an adult. So they didn't want me to be a liar or a thief. And so the whole moment became about admit that you stole it. Don't be a liar. Don't be a thief.
Right.
And they started like spanking me. So I will admit I stole the book when really they should have just read me the book.
Right.
And so that was the powerful ayahuasca, the notion that came up, which is, what else did they do?
Right.
Like if their instinct in that moment is not this cute little kid wants to understand how the world works.
Right.
It was, we must make sure he's not a thief and a liar. And then I didn't want to get, spanked. But in my head, I just thought, as a weird kid, I will never admit I stole it. I just had this thought as a crazy kid.
Well, you're being hurt. So the only power you have in that situation is to be like,
yeah, I'm going to win this by never admitting it.
yeah, isn't that kind of like the chicken parm?
In a way, yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
There's like a, fuck you. I'm not going to
admit it. And then they said,
there's a problem with authority. I'm not saying you have a problem with authority.
No,
Most of us.
Yeah, it was like, or...
Even your own authority, even your own voice saying, don't eat a chicken parm.
Well, I guess the idea for me was that I felt unsafe to admit I took it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're being struck.
Yeah. And
You're being 70s
but,
spanked,
so they
too, by the way. It's different from a 90s spank.
And they're saying, if you admit it, we'll stop. And I'm like, but I didn't do it. And then they say, if you admit it, we'll never spank you again. And then I admitted it. And they didn't ever spank me again.
So you held out.
But they cried. They were crying
Isn't
because
the story in The Art of the Deal?
if they go at you, you go back 12 times harder.
Yeah, until you get something.
You have to. There's a thing in The Art of the Deal where one of the Trump books where he's like, you go back harder because they deserve it, and it'll make them think twice next time, and it lets other people know not to fuck with you. Wow. Like that's his philosophy.
The whole strategy. And that was you at 7. Essentially.
At 7, I'm just like, I will win this standoff.
Yeah.
And
but there's a part of me that can be with little Judd and be like, I'm not saying in a therapy way. I'm kind of like, there's something kind of good for you.
Well, the whole thing,
like you're being physically assaulted, and you're like, I'm going to see.
Well, that's also
parenting
here. From post-war parents who, probably their parents were tough on them, but it was more the out of tuneness of it,
right?
Of not understanding what the moment was about and not kind of seeing my curiosity,
right,
in it,
right.
And then in ayahuasca, I thought, this is the moment that's being shown to me,
yeah.
But how many other times was the reaction out of sync or off?
Right, right.
That my whole personality was built around adjusting to that.
And also the specificity that it's sex shame, which is the trickiest. Like you have a book that has, it's actually quite funny to think that it's like a sexual book because the drawings are so, the people in the book are like decidedly ordinary.
They're like Jim Henson looking figures.
Jim Henson, kind of like,
like the professor.
Yeah.
Like the Swedish chef.
The guy's bald. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not trying to make it a seductive book.
Yeah.
And so it's comical, but you got that very specific. Again, I think this is something we bonded over. I'm thinking I got it from church. I'm going to go to hell if I touch an ass. But you got it kind of this moment sort of married your sexuality to shame, or did it?
Well, I think that it made me think I need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I need to be independent.
This is chicken parm, man.
Yeah,
I'm not even trying to fix your problem. That's chicken parm.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like I need to be on my game. I need to have a direction.
This is where we really bond as friends and people. Is I remember being like, my parents loved me, whatever. Disclaimer here. I'm just saying. I remember at a young age being like, I gotta take over.
Yeah, and when it's at 7,
yeah,
it's too young
like
go. I'm not, and my parents also. The only reason why I've succeeded is their level of belief and support and being there for me.
Yeah.
But also just from whatever their parents did to them.
Yeah.
That feeling like I can't fully put myself in their hands.
Yeah.
And I need to be on it. I need to have a career goal.
Yeah.
I need to have a future, which makes you hypervigilant.
Right.
It makes you a workaholic.
Right.
It puts you in your head too much.
Me, you, Birbiglia, we talk so much about hypervigilance. That's the word. It's like, why can't I just be in this restaurant right now? It's because I'm not trying to be funny. When I watched the first Jason Bourne movie, I'm like, this is a trauma survivor. Those movies are about a guy who's traumatized by the government, and then he's in the world going like, why can't I just be with Marie? Yeah. And it's like, why do we like it? It's not Spies. Yeah. It's because we're going like, I know what it's like trying to get over something. And when he's like, I know how fast I can run at this altitude. I know where the gun is and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, that's a child that felt like he had to know where the exits were in a restaurant. And that's how...
And the system isn't fair.
Right.
And is mistreating him. The parental figures
they were
are messing with him.
Well, they waterboarded Jason Bourne and your version of that. I'm not trying to downplay waterboarding, and I'm not trying to over-dramatize your trauma, but like that was a version of like the authority figures are attacking me for being curious about sex instead of reading me the book.
Exactly. And so I felt like ayahuasca, like there was a bunch of stories that came up and different things, but it felt like it's like, oh, here's events that created your personality.
Yeah.
And so then you have these filters and you have a way of looking at the world and defense mechanisms. And maybe by showing this to you, you can drop some of it.
Yeah.
And you can get rid of some of those filters.
Right.
And see the world for what it is, not just through the eyes of that kid.
Right.
And so it was definitely a very, very helpful experience. And then you have to follow up on it and keep learning stuff.
Coming back, like
I feel it, like all the time. You just see something a little different or a little deeper, and it's just so weird. It exists as a thing that like there's a plant and you boil it and you drink it, and
there's a plant and a root. There's a bark and a root.
Yeah.
Do you know the story that they asked some American or explorer, I don't know if he was American, asked them, how did you know of all the plants in the jungle? How did you know how to make it? And they said, the jungle told us. I'm like,
right. And then and even
and
doing
you
it
believe
makes
it immediately. You're like, of course. There's tens of thousands more of plants, and there was this one and this one.
Yeah,
that makes you do this.
Or over thousands of years, just someone
trying them all,
right? Like, well, how do we know to eat a dog?
Yeah.
Well, we don't eat a dog. Someone tried it. And
someone definitely tried it
and said, not that one.
That's right.
Let's eat that stupid chicken over there. That's
Let's
fine.
eat that bird staring at the sun.
But it does open your mind to like what all the things that seem ridiculous and woo-woo.
Yeah.
Because you go, how is it that I must be connected to the world and the earth and the plants in a way if I have an emotional connection, if I eat that?
Yeah.
And that thing knows to go to my pain.
Right.
And tell me a story about it. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
But, like you say, we're spinning on
a planet, a space rock in infinity. It's all crazy.
That it's all crazy. And then can you open up to like anything is possible?
Yeah.
Because I think usually we're like more directed to be logical. And that's another thing about it. It just makes you go, I don't know, anything. All these, you almost don't want to say it out loud, like the possibilities, but also nothing makes any sense, which is, I think, why I like James Finley.
Yes.
Who you turned me on to, the
Christian mystic.
Christian mystic who talks about contemplative prayer.
Yeah.
Which the core of is we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Just.
It's interesting to define. For so long, I thought contemplative prayer meant you can contemplate something like an idea, you repeat it in your mind or whatever. It's actually kind of the opposite. I learned it from Richard Rohr, and James Finley teaches at the CAC and all that. Contemplative prayer is like a self-emptying practice. It's trying to like void your mind of any presumption or attempt at understanding. Meister Eckhart says something very similar. It's like the only way we can mirror God is to become nothing, is to try and empty and stop trying to understand and stop trying to conceptualize and just be a neutral zero. And then you can kind of, there's somebody else that says that silence is the closest thing to God. So that's what contemplation actually is. It's kind of, but you can do it at the grocery store. You can just be the allowing presence. Sorry, I'm on a tear here, but like Rupert Spira talks about the space in this room is kind of like us. And right now there's these cameras and there's this whiteboard. But 100 years ago, this building wasn't here. And in 200 years, it won't be here. But like the space is unaffected by that. And he's like, be like that space. Things come in and they leave, but nothing stains or even leaves an imprint on the space. That actually is kind of like what we are. We've been watching our lives flow through the still point of ourself. And contemplation is trying to like rest as that. When you say like love, you're really just looking at it like a space in a room. You could say the space of this room is loving us by allowing us. So you go through reality trying to allow and not resist anything. So that's my understanding of contemplation. But James Finley is the teacher that you vibe with the most.
Yes. And so I go on YouTube and watch all those videos because he basically says that it's so rare that your mind is fully open and that most of life is preventing you from being in complete openness with nothing going on. And in that open state, maybe that's when you would be most creative, or maybe you would notice the beauty of a flower or a dog playing, or you feel God or some sort of connection in this kind of open, not filled space.
Right.
And that most of our life is all the noise preventing that from happening.
Right. That's right.
Social media, the politics, life, problems, like everything in the world is really good at making sure you're not in that space.
That's right.
And then it takes work to create it.
Move it away.
Yeah. And then, and we felt that in just writing a joke.
That's right.
Right? Like you're totally clear, and then suddenly like creativity pours in.
Yeah.
Or for a songwriter, it's something like a song appears.
Right.
But it's always in this. That's why people think of things in the shower or when they're driving. You're in this open space.
Yeah.
But also that can be a connection to
Totally.
The universe and everything. And I've never had that before till ayahuasca and listening and reading a lot from James Finley. Like, oh, that's the place where it happens.
Right.
Because to me, it was always like, I got work to do. I'm not trying to create open space.
Right.
I'm trying to get something done.
Right.
So that's a new thing.
You may notice me and the guest are drinking Magic Mind in this episode, and that is because I absolutely love Magic Mind. It is a productivity drink. It's not an energy drink. It's like athletes have Gatorade. We now have Creatorade. It's like flow state in a bottle. It's a little bit of caffeine from matcha, green tea. It's got adaptogens, which help you calm down, takes the edge off of that caffeine, takes the edge off the caffeine you might be drinking with your Magic Mind, and its nootropics, which help you function in your noodle, obviously. It is the perfect mix, dropping you into that dialed-in state. I use it before shows. I use it before this podcast. I always give it to the guests, and when they don't take it, I'm always a little bit upset because it brings out the best. It's mood elevating, it's creativity boosting, and it's flow state in a bottle. You have to try it. I absolutely love it. After 3 to 7 days of continuous use, it gets easier and easier the more you use it. We're talking about 30% off, more stuff on average. 30% more stuff done on average. That's 5 to 7 hours of 30% more productivity, and they have a money-back guarantee. Any first purchase will be refunded. No questions asked if it doesn't meet your expectations. So go to magicmind.co/weird and use my discount code at checkout, WEIRD, for a limited 20% off your first order. I love it. I hope you love it. Support your brain, support your creativity. Go to magicmind.co/weird. Use promo code WEIRD at checkout. We're also brought to us by our friends at Ritual. I was just on the road, as I mentioned, and the one multi that I take and the one thing that I bring with me on the road always is my Ritual multivitamin. If supporting foundational health was a sport, you would want Ritual on your team. They made Essential for Men, a multivitamin that's based solely on science and designed to help fill common nutrient gaps in your diet with 10 key nutrients. Men, in particular, overemphasize the importance of exercise and tend to downplay diet. Ritual enters to solve this problem. It is a multivitamin scientifically developed to help men fill those gaps. And it is gentle on your stomach. I fast. I'm fasting today. I took it this morning. It doesn't upset my stomach. And a lot of people think you just pee out your multivitamin. You ever have that feeling? You take it and your pee turns yellow and it's just leaving your system. You feel like it was a waste. Ritual has a delayed release capsule. It doesn't break down until it's in your lower intestine where it can actually be absorbed for a feeling that you notice. I notice when I take my Ritual. I notice when I forget it. Makes me feel ready to start my day. There's science-backed, 10 key nutrients, delayed release, minty essence. It is wonderful. Essential for Men is a quality multivitamin from a company you can trust. You can actually trust. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/weird. Start Ritual or add Essential for Men to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/weird for 25% off. All right, back to the app. And then there's more noise.
Then there's more noise, more pressure. Your brain is always filled with stuff and problems.
I would rather have a plan.
Yeah.
Like when I was starting stand-up, I would write it out, including like, hey, folks, how you doing? Mm-hmm. And I've told this before, but I included hecklers. And I'd be like, quiet down, Slappy. That's what I said in the script. And that's what the brain thinks stand-up is. Mm-hmm. And actually, when you watch the greats, you see that they're creating from that place.
Yeah.
From that flow state, from that spacious place. But it takes, sometimes we have to fumble in those pre-planny, brainy ways.
Yeah.
It's the very same thing, very similar thing to going on a good date. Your first dates are terrible because you're thinking about what a date is. And a really good date is a flowing, natural occurrence from that place of creativity, from that being vulnerable enough to be present to what's actually happening at your date instead of just projecting onto it how dinner should be going.
Yeah.
The same
that's
with the
my
joke.
biggest problem
is that
I think everything I've ever written about is about the inability to be in that state.
To just let things be.
So if you watch The 40-Year-Old Virgin, the entire thing is a stress dream of an inability to accept yourself and like yourself and be in a calm, relaxed state with other people. Right. It's all just him in a wide-eyed panic, lying about like, you know how breasts feel like a bag of sand?
Right.
It's all panic.
Right. So for you and I both, I think one of the reasons, well, I'm going to guess, you tell me if I'm right, but like one of the draws to spirituality, obviously I have no interest in churches or liturgies or, not no interest, but that's not my thing. Mm-hmm. But what is my thing is the relief and the peace that comes in going, all of that anxiety, all of that planning, all of that stress comes and goes. So I must not be it. Mm-hmm. If I'm the thing that sometimes sees stress, sometimes sees anxiety, sometimes sees panic, sometimes is having a good time, blah, 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 but it's not essential to me. It doesn't define me. Mm-hmm. The reason I'm drawn to spirituality is because it's trying to reintroduce you to your true self, and your true self is made of a spacious space like peaceful, joyful happiness that we then add bullshit to, and it's about this like removing it and learning how to remove it. Does that relate?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's how do you remove the hypervigilance?
Yeah.
How do you rewire your brain?
Right.
Which this is the first time I even had. I studied meditation and Buddhism and all of it for decades, but it never really fully kicked in.
Yeah.
Just in my core.
Yeah.
So I could talk a good game of it. I tried, but I think this is the first time I felt it.
Well, on ayahuasca?
On ayahuasca,
or with James?
with James, but both, where, I got introduced to him after ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And suddenly, like, it made sense, and I could feel it.
Right.
If I paid attention to myself, that I understood and was having an experience of what he's talking about.
Right.
Like, oh, that's the space
that
I need to enlarge.
Right.
And Eckhart Tolle talks about that, about, it's all power of now. It's the same thing.
Now and being and knowing.
It's all the same, but I never felt it before.
That's right. And I see such profound, it's a church word, but I do see such profound grace in that. There was some Indian teacher that said, the West loves materials, so God came to them as a material, meaning as psychedelics. Talking about it in the 60s. Yeah. So we love stuff and eating stuff and trying stuff. So it was like, it's like the hound of heaven. It'll chase you no matter where you go, and it'll find you. Because at the end of the day, it was you playing this game with yourself anyway. So it's like, here, Judd, have ayahuasca because whoever in your life told you to take it. And then I relate really hard to that because I did 5-MeO DMT. Ayahuasca's the other kind of DMT, but like I had that experience of everything going away and really feeling like people describe it like you're going into outer space or going into a void. And you realize you didn't go anywhere. It was there the whole time. And these are the kinds of things you can say. But when you really have like everything pulled away and you didn't go anywhere and you can't go anywhere, like you have the experience of like, you know how you say, like, the only thing that exists is the now, and the only place that exists is here. You've never been anywhere but here. You've never been any time but now. That's all fine and good, but when you have that shocking experience, then those texts can make a lot more sense. It's not necessary, but for guys like us, it seems like it was necessary.
Yeah, you need it.
I needed it. Because now when I read about that, I'm like, I know what they're talking about. I have that groove. But then you had like a surprisingly Christian kind of flavor
that
to
it
your
landed
show.
on Jesus.
Yeah. I don't
at the end,
which is bizarre, right? I mean, like here you are.
I mean, for a few years, like around like the Avett brothers, I would always say, "Sell me on Jesus."
Yeah.
Right. So it was certainly in my mind.
Yeah.
Because I was interested that like there's so many people.
Yeah.
What do they believe in?
You mean so many Christians?
So many Christians, but like also people I respect.
Yeah.
That it's profound to them.
Right.
Not evangelicals.
Yeah. You're thinking like a Desmond
evangelists,
Tutu,
but more the Bono version,
Bono.
like a creative person who talks about it as metaphor,
right?
And what they take from it.
Right.
So I would ask people every once in a while, what's that about?
Yeah.
But never really looking into it much. But did get recommended some reading from you, and from Scott and Seth.
It can be tricky. You can't really. No disrespect to the New Testament, but it's hard to just jump in. You're going to be reading a genealogy, basically like a lineage for a while, and then it's something you kind of understand the stories. I need someone to explain it to me, like Richard, someone I trust, Richard Rohr. Then I can kind of go like, oh, I see.
Because I find everything suspect.
For sure.
Just generally because my parents weren't religious. They never talked about it. They didn't even talk about that they weren't.
Wow.
It was the absence of the talk.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for me to jump into these things.
Yeah.
Because I'm just not wired for it. Through channeling, I was interested in Buddhism. And a lot of that's almost an absence of religion. Buddhism is almost like a self-help technique.
Right.
A lot of it.
Well, no deity. There's no God, but it's self-inquiry to a certain extent. It's saying, I can't summarize Buddhism, but the way I understand it, it's like a good entry point would be, who am I? Like, what is it that is even asking?
Yeah.
Like, what am I? What am I doing here? But it doesn't say God made it. It doesn't say Buddha made it.
So that's the big thing for me is like whatever God, whatever your idea of God is, I didn't even have the beginning of even a portal into anything.
Yeah.
So this is interesting because I still don't really, other than the tiniest little window crack. But even that is a giant thing to me, that not a forced version, but like the beginning of a felt something.
Yeah.
That isn't connected to some prejudice about why I shouldn't. So it's the beginning of a journey.
So you're kind of going in naked, which is kind of good.
Yeah, like I'm open to anything.
But what was the experience?
Well, it was just at the end of the whole thing, something I just like saw Jesus on the cross, and the feeling was, oh, I get what that is.
Right. Wasn't the shaman like doing something?
It was after
for you?
purging. It was like after the
Like
vomiting
you were sick
and the
she
purging.
Was like, I'll vomit for you.
She said, "I'll purge for you."
Yeah.
Because nothing was coming up because I hadn't eaten all day.
Right.
And then she says, "I'll purge for you," and then she's doing it.
Right.
And
Perfect.
she's really doing it.
Yeah.
But it's also like she's purging my trauma.
Yeah. In the kind of a Jesus-y, your sin sort of way.
I'm taking it on for you and releasing it for you.
Yeah.
Was what it felt like.
Yeah.
And then I see Jesus on the cross, which I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like a symbol in my world.
Right.
And then I just thought, oh, this is what it all means. And like as I'm like passing out, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it. It's more as like a brotherhood. We should all be there for each other. The way she was for me, the idea of it like seemed to make sense, whether it's real or a story or just my mind kicking back up something I heard a long time ago.
Right.
It just landed in a profound way of we should all just be there for each other.
Well, she's recognizing, again, this is Rupert Spira, but he's like, love is the collapse of relationship. It's not I'm here, you're there. It's like we're the same. Like I'm gonna love you like you're me. That's the golden rule thing. So here she's literally picking up your suffering and processing it for you. I would completely agree. It's the collapsing of division, and that's why we say that God is love, because God is the absence of division. It just it's full of itself, and just radiates, and that's what we are.
And so for me to even ever get anything like that it never happens. A felt sense of what you say eloquently, which I can never really express eloquently, but it's that.
Yeah, of course.
But where you go, oh, now I kind of understand something I never understood in my heart before.
Right.
Which opened up the door to all sorts of other things. Then everything I ever read or thought about in spirituality or therapy, suddenly it all connected and made sense. It was like it all became part of the same wheel.
One thing.
Like everything I had ever heard, like I suddenly was like, oh, now I think I kind of get everything everyone has been trying to tell me. The Buddhist stuff, Jewish stuff, everything.
Yeah.
I'm still not there in any way, but it was like, oh, it's all connected. It's all the same thing.
Right. Right. It's interesting. What I deal with all the time is I'm like, I don't know if Pete or Judd ever really get there. You know, it's one of these journeys that the mind doesn't get to go on. I'll give you an ayahuasca. It's not my thing, but people sometimes go into a void and they come back and they're like, it was nothing. It was lonely. It was cold. It was dark. And it's like, no, that's what the mind interprets it as. Like, meaning the mind can't go. The mind doesn't get to come. Rupert would say, a person is never enlightened. You are enlightenment. You're made out of that knowing or that being, and it's what you are. But like when I want Pete to like be fully cooked or fully realized or whatever, I don't know if that's, I used to think that was the game, that one day you'd smell a flower and you'd just be like, and I was never stressed again. Now I'm sort of like, I think it's a forever deepening. This is very Rupert Spira, but he's like, we just abide more and more there instead of being like, well, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's a forever process of just firming up that relationship. In Christian language, to say to know you're a child of God, but you could just make that less religious and say just to know that you are awareness. And what else could you be? And the Judd mind, when is it ever going to stop doing the only thing it does, which we have your journals. That's what it does. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like, I'm talking to you, but I'm really talking to myself. I'm like, sometimes Pete just disappoints me. I'm just like, geez, you know everything you know. Mm-hmm. Why were you weird at coffee this morning with my friends, making jokes that are too much or whatever it is? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't think Pete gets to go. But the good news is I'm not Pete. I mean, relatively, of course I'm Pete, but ultimately I don't think you're Judd. I brought it back to you.
Yeah, it always goes into that place, which is hard to, where none of it makes sense. But the thing I like about the contemplative prayer is the whole point is that
to drop it.
It's all mystery. You'll never figure any of it out, and you like the total acceptance of it's all about the question.
Yeah.
And somehow the question is the thing that brings you closer to it. It is like a koan or something. Like it is. And that part. It
breaks your brain. It shuts it down. It shuts it down. But if your brain can be removed from the equation, and you still are, then you must not be the activity of your brain. You're not your thoughts. You're not your. Yeah. You're not even your behavior. Ultimately, you're just. Anyway, we're getting pretty far out there.
Yeah. Then I just jump out the window. You went too far. Judd couldn't handle it. He just went too far, and you pulled a Mike Birbiglia and just leaped out the window.
He did. Now he sleeps in a sleeping bag with mittens on.
But the funny thing was when I was on ayahuasca, in my head, I beforehand I was trying to think of like strategies to not lose my mind because I was really scared to like just let go and take this ride that I can't stop. And the thing that kept happening was like in my head, I would suddenly check in and see Ram Dass, the spiritual guru, right? And so in my mind, I would just think about him, just like imagine he was there with me and just go, how am I doing?
Yeah.
And he would always be laughing.
Yeah.
And go, you are really in it. Wow, this is crazy. This is happening right now. This is... how you feeling? This is wild. And like that vibe is what kept it possible. Playful. And because people said, just look at anything that gets shown to you as a gift. You're lucky to even get this information. So even if it's scary or terrifying, like you're being offered something. And so checking in with this idea of Ram Dass and I didn't know what he would say. Obviously, I'm creating it.
Yeah.
But the idea that it was always just like, this is a riot. Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. You're doing it, man. You're doing it like that's a funny kind of,
like I don't
cheerleader.
know.
Yeah. And it wasn't telling me what it was.
Yeah. Just like you're here.
Just like this is what it is.
Those symbols are so important for me. When I remember Christ or Ram Dass or anybody like Rupert, I think about them when I'm in a place like that, and I'm just like, oh, thank God. You know what I mean? Like we need the symbol of their loving face laughing.
Or listening to hundreds of hours of it so that in that moment, whatever part of your brain process it can,
you need all those strategies.
It can create the character somehow to talk to you properly.
Yeah.
Right? Like Ram Dass didn't go like, this is fucking terrifying.
That's right.
Somehow my brain knew how to soothe myself.
Yes. Yeah. You said that because I haven't done it, but like it's like a full 360. It's not like over here there's some colors. It's like you're gone. You're somewhere else.
Yeah. You have no sense of your body.
But Judd is there. The idea of Judd. I'm Judd.
And in the middle of it, every once in a while, someone told me, I think, to do this, or I took it from something where I just said, "How you doing in there?" That's what I would say. "How you doing in there?" And I would locate myself, right? Because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And so I go like, "How you doing in there?" And then suddenly I would like find me, and I could go like, "Okay, I'm okay." And then I could watch it with
from a
distance.
localized point. Yeah.
Yeah, I could watch it as if I was almost like watching TV. Where when I forgot to do that, I'm just swirling in the madness.
Yeah.
But then I would watch it and just go like, "Wow, look at this! There's thousands of multicolored snakes here right now." This is. Although the shaman said to me, anything that's really bad, it will resolve itself within 90 seconds. And that helped a lot. Because I always think it's going to be like 7 hours.
Yeah.
Where you're in a black hole
And that
or
was
something.
true.
And that really was true. That if I could just hang on, it would just kept morphing into something else.
Isn't that just how it is, man? I mean, like, I got in some traffic on the way here, and I was just like, the suffering comes from thinking, this is it. I'm going to be here. So similar, like you're in a void or there's 1,000 snakes, you just go like, this too shall pass sort of thing.
Yeah, something else is coming.
Yeah.
And the next thing might be fun. And it would be. It just kept turning into something else.
Wow.
I mean, you so wish you had like a tape of it.
I know.
Because you forget most of it. You wish you could just like
it's like your
review
dreams.
it. Yeah.
You wake up, sometimes you're like, I know I had epic. Sometimes I feel like I'm really doing like serious spiritual work in my dreams. Death work, consciousness work. Then I wake up and I'm just like, coffee. Like I'm just like didn't hold on to any of it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that you're trying to localize, because I think like that's what the whole thing is like when you dream at night, this is a Rupert thing. It's like you have to localize yourself in the dream. If you're dreaming that you're on a beach, you have to put yourself on the beach to experience it. That's kind of what reality is we're all these like localizations of awareness. So if you're getting lost, I've had dreams where there doesn't seem to be a character in the dream. Like I'm not even in the dream. I'm just floating, and it's madness. Yeah. And that sounds like what you're having in ayahuasca too. It's like, no, we need to remember that I am anchored in one point. I can watch from that point.
And none of your daily concerns are a part of it.
Right.
Which is wild. It's not like you start running your current problem.
Right.
At all.
Yeah.
You have no ability to.
Right.
Which was it's also
nice.
a weird vacation from that stuff.
If you're running from a rhinoceros with like a flame instead of a horn, you're like, you're not wondering about Miramax or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, just nothing, anything.
Yeah, Sony.
Just, like almost a point where that stuff feels like it's a million miles away.
Yeah. How does it, one of the things you and I talk a lot about, and we're almost done here, let you get back to your life, but you and I are watching show business change and evolve. And one of the things, like Val and I we all had dinner, and she was talking about like she loves this version of Judd. She loves all the Judds, but there is like a newer Judd that I'd love to just touch on here at the end. That is kind of like, I don't know, you don't feel as attached to like churning out movies and stuff. You kind of seem zen about it. And as things are getting weirder and there's AI and streaming and all this stuff, I just wonder if you might speak a little bit about like finding a center that isn't as much in show business. Is that fair to say? I know you're still in it.
I mean, and I certainly have my moments of meltdown and all of that, but I have more moments of trying to find a new place to stand.
Yeah, a place to
in
stand,
it.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I'm putting a book together of all the photos and memorabilia from all the projects I ever did. And it's just a lot of stuff, right? So on one level, you have like this great pride where you go, wow, look at all this stuff. And I'm really happy with like most of it. And all the collaborations and all the people. And then you also feel like disconnected from all of it.
You turn one page, it's just Jason Segel's dick.
Exactly. That's what the scrapbook is.
Why?
Every page. It's like
every fifth page Siegel's dick from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. It's a classic.
It's a performance art piece.
It's a comedy penis. It's peppered throughout the book. Sorry, I had to interrupt with a riff. But you feel good about it.
You feel good about it, and then you also just feel crazy. Like, that was crazy.
Yes.
That was a run of manic madness that lasted for decades.
Kind of like you were saying, the fire in everybody's eyes. You had that fire. It's not that you don't have that fire. I want to be very careful to not say, you and I still talk about ideas. You're always doing new stand-up. It's not that. But there's kind of like an evening out of the mania.
And who knows, it may be just everyone has a youthful, genetically predisposed hunter-gatherer, I need to work now.
Flare up.
Yeah. And that's whatever.
Yeah.
20 to 50.
Yeah.
That's your job on earth.
Yeah.
To provide.
Yeah.
And then you add all of the neuroses and toxic stuff that makes you amp it up, and it becomes creativity, because in a way, a lot of the things that I work on are me trying to solve my own mental problems. Like, I'm writing about things to figure myself out, or to figure out my life. That's why so many things are personal. Like, why am I writing The 40-Year-Old Virgin? Why am I writing Knocked Up? Like, there are things I'm just using, fiction to
your stuff
to look back at things, or to figure out where to go next. And that is a part of it. You pick subject matters that interest you. But then you also have a distance, right? So I have like a distance, and the business is changing, and I'm not on the same pace. And I've covered a lot of the ground I wanted to cover. I did college, I did high school, I did getting married, I did having a baby, I did long-lasting relationship, I did getting cancer. So at some point you're like, there's not really much more to talk about, so you have to take a breath. And you also help people work through, like you with Crashing, like work through the things that they're investigating in their creativity.
Right.
And then you start thinking, okay, why do it now? What do you have to say? What about the experience do you enjoy? If you're not as hungry in a kind of a sick way, and you could really make it pure to your love of it, or having something that you want to express, what might that be? And can you be less rushed to let it come when it comes?
Right.
And you see that with most artists. Like, there's a lot of records, and then they come out less and less.
That's right.
And is that a failure? Is that a burnout? Or is there a natural ebb and flow to it? And then every once in a while, Bob Dylan puts out Time Out of Mind, or like they uncork something, but it's not like they're doing it every 8 months like the Beatles.
Right.
The rhythm of it changes. Or maybe you're like George Harrison, and you're like, I'm just going to hang out and study Eastern spirituality for the next 9 years.
Right.
Or John Lennon went in his house and raised his son for half a decade.
Right.
And you feel, that's why people do that. They expressed a lot, and now they're like sorting through it.
Right.
And sometimes you're like, oh yeah, maybe there'll be another run of stuff, or maybe that's it. John Hughes just retired.
Right.
He's like, I'm going to let other people tell their stories. And the obsession to be in the business, does that actually take up all the bandwidth that you should use towards growing up in other ways?
Right. Yeah.
Like, how much mind space do you have for it? So I'm doing a lot of documentaries, and I'm preparing another movie. I'm not working, but certainly a lot of the energy is different energy.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that it'll lead to some great things, but I don't know what it'll lead to. Can I be open to like not being hungry?
Yeah.
Is there a version to be really true to yourself and make interesting things, but without this insecure, mad, youthful hunger and obsession?
Isn't someone who modeled that for you Harold Ramis? Am I wrong, off base on that? He seems so even.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's why he did Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
and he was very. If he was, maybe he was an existentialist.
Yeah,
which is, he just thought, I don't believe in God, so that means I decide if I want to be a good person or a bad person. I'd rather be a good person.
Right. Right.
And he was into Buddhism, and he was more obsessed with just, here's how Buddhists say to live, and if you kind of follow all this, you'll be happier.
Men in his career too, like there seems to be some appreciation, Shandling as well, for like a new stage of their lives. You know what I mean?
Well, Shandling definitely felt at the end like, I'm trying to crack some stuff, but you don't always have to be on TV. And the business wants to make you feel terrible if you're not always white hot.
Yeah.
And so I found on a notepad of his, it just said, like it was some version of, yes, I still exist. I'm just not on TV. Because people were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And I still exist. You can exist not having a show.
Yeah. It's like you're telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think on some level it made him insecure. Like, I think that's also him trying to talk himself off the ledge, but also he believed it at the same time, because a lot of the Larry Sanders Show was runs where Larry was trying to retire, trying to quit the show, trying to make it not as important.
Right. Right.
But that also is sad if you have a gift and you're creative, and something about the fight to get things made or to get approval defeats you, and you stop being creative because of it. Mm-hmm. So can you keep doing your thing? You know, Leonard Cohen's writing a lot of poetry. He's, you don't have to always be making the Avengers to be expressing yourself. And how big do things need to be?
Right.
And who needs to see him?
Is there a cleaner fuel to run on? Does it have to be our trauma? Can't we find another?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
And so it's an interesting exploration of where does it all go? What new insights and wisdom can you bring to the work?
Yeah.
But it's also true that when you're young and super neurotic, people really relate to the mistakes you make and that you're writing about.
Yeah. And the exposed nerve of your whole existence. Yeah.
Yeah, that we're all in that phase early on where we're just so hungry and so stupid and immature.
Yeah.
And we need these lessons and we're crashing. And that's why it's fun to make these movies.
Yeah.
And
you've learned nothing.
Yeah.
You've learned nothing.
Exactly. And so can you be wiser and tap into everything to be funny, or does your wisdom make you boring as shit like this fucking podcast? Just erase this tape. Just erase it.
I thought you said a racist tape. We cut those moments out.
But that is where my head goes, right? It's like, your funniest moments are your moments where you're broken parts and anger and horniness and jealousy like is exposed.
Yep.
It's like Jonah Hill in Superbad. He's like, we could be that mistake.
Yeah.
That's right. Like the intensity of that that desperation.
No, it's true. There's something there. To go to the other side, those are the young people in the passion doing things with Mel Brooks and Bob Newhart and
documentaries.
The documentaries. In closing, did you get any what have you learned from watching people closer to the end of their lives? Was there anything you gleamed from them, watching them navigate their lives in the autumn?
Well, I was friends with Norman Lloyd. Norman Lloyd was in Dead Poets Society in St. Elsewhere, and he was the older gentleman in Trainwreck. And we put him in the movie. He was 99.
Oh, wow.
And he just had incredibly good energy. So I learned a lot just from his happiness. He would tell this story about his wife on her deathbed, and they had been married for 70 years. And on her deathbed, she said something like, how long have we been together for? And he's like, 70 years. And she said, I think we're going to make it. And he would tell that story. And it's such a sweet but heartbreaking story about how wonderful their marriage was and how great she was.
Wow.
But then another time I was with him, and the only time he was ever negative about being 100, was he was telling me some story about somebody from the 40s or the 50s. And he went, he's dead. they're all dead. And it was the only time he ever said anything like that. Wow. He was always so positive.
Wow.
He'd be like, I've worked with all the great directors. Chaplin, Hitchcock, Apatow. Once his leg was kind of messed up from something, I was like, what happened to your leg, Norman? He goes, I heard it kicking too much ass. He's one of those guys, like back in the day, they would do Shakespeare and it was in the theater, they would be famous for their voice. So even though he was like from New Jersey, he created this voice where he talked like this.
Yes.
And he did all the time, like this like John Houseman.
Like Orson Welles.
And he was in the Mercury Theater. So the positivity
that's a great
of Norman,
that's the whole hope, is to keep that I was on an airplane recently sitting next to like a curmudgeonly old lady, and I was like, she went the wrong way.
Yeah.
She went the wrong way.
Yeah.
The whole thing, keep the hand over the candle. Don't let the rain put it out. There's so many reasons to be bitter and angry and upset.
Yeah.
But I want to think that man found a deeper connection to something.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like Bob Newhart was just the sweetest man.
Yeah.
So we did this documentary, Bob and Don, which is on the New Yorker website. And he wanted me to make a documentary about how much he loved Don Rickles, his best friend. And it was just such a beautiful idea. Like, I just want people to remember Don.
Wow. So edit that out.
So we made this short, and it's like 25 minutes. And, but it's also about life and mortality and these people who shared this, 50-year, 60-year friendship.
It's 25 minutes, but you feel it.
You feel it. And what it was is I thought it would be a light piece.
I was burning you like it's long. It feels long. I was just being an asshole. It's wonderful.
But like you feel like how much he loves Don and how much he misses Don.
Yeah.
And so when we were editing it, we were like, this is sad.
Yeah.
But then I thought it's like beautifully sad how much connection he had with this man, and now he's gone. And he wants to talk about him.
That pain is like the echo of a really big love.
Yeah,
you can see it.
And so I just said to the editors, let's go fully into that. Let's not just get a taste of that. Let's luxuriate into the grieving of it as well as the comedy of these guys. And there's that with Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, where they were friends since 1949.
Wow.
And
over an egg cream.
Right.
He bought me my first egg cream.
And just the friendship. Like, people watched the Bob and Don documentary and they said, because it was also about their wives and the friendship of the two couples, that it reminded them of their grandparents and just another era. A different sensibility of what those relationships were like. So that's what I take from it is, can you be a good person, do your art, have your friends, leave a positive imprint wherever you went, not cause any trouble. Yeah. Just, be there for other people. Yeah. That's why it's weird. I saw Jesus when everything I do is about the Jews.
Jesus was a Jew.
Jesus was a Jew.
He's the most famous Jew.
So we're all connected.
He is huge.
Because I was talking about my ayahuasca at the Laugh Factory the other night, and this religious Jewish man in the audience, as I walked off the stage, just leaned over. He goes, "Jesus was a Jew."
And now that's in the routine. I hope.
That's
hilarious.
He had to own it with me.
Jesus was a Jew. Can I do that voice? I'm doing an impression of his. I looked at Katie. That's also kind of weird. Fantastic.
Yes.
Judd, I love you so much.
Love you, buddy.
I really want you to know that kindness and that light is emanating off of you, and your generosity is incredible. What you've given, so not just me, but so many people in your comedy and the opportunities and everything. So it's huge. And I see you doing it for Maude, your daughter now, as she's directing, and as a father and as a husband. It's incredible. So you really are a piece of shit.
I always felt like the thing that attracted me to Crashing was also a part of me. Like, there's something to learn from Pete, that I want to be around this. I want to be around how he's thinking about all this. Like, this is like a direction that I need to go in.
And it ended up being,
And it was, but that was
for both of us,
the root of it.
Yeah, we were both kind of starting that journey, more or less. And to think that now, being as close as we are and still talking about the ideas that usually Leaf was espousing. You know what I mean? Eckhart Tolle. I was having him quote these things that were really new to me. Ram Dass And now here we are still visiting Ram Dass in the other realm.
But basically, what we're saying is Crashing is on Max.
It's on Max, which
You
is a
watch
soda.
it now. When do you run this? I have a lot of
soda.
I've got a lot of things to promote to the people who make it all the way through.
Max, Bros. Bros is fantastic.
Well, I'm in Atlanta on the 3rd of November.
Yeah, this will be out.
So you go to juddapatow.com/events at the Variety Playhouse. And then on the 9th, I'm at the Beacon Theater.
Oh, no way.
In New York.
Great.
And that's at nycomedyfestival.com. And that's going to be fun. And Jeff Foxworthy is with me in Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
And Ricky Velez. And those are benefits for hurricane victims.
Are you going to do, you might be a Los Angeles Jewish producer?
Yes.
Like instead of redneck?
Yeah, I'm going to switch everything. I'm going to do my
It's like, you
version
bit
of
my
it.
thing, but you do it first.
Yeah.
And you do it better. And he's like, you bit my act. That sounds so fun.
But you could plug it at the beginning also.
No, I won't.
Please.
Nope.
Please. How many people get this far?
People make it to the end.
You do?
Yeah. They make it to the end. Because what if you did something outrageous?
Yeah.
What if you storm out? It would actually be great if you want to say keep it crispy and then storm out.
Okay.
What was I going to say? I had one more thing. It doesn't fucking matter. I do have something to talk to you about off camera that's going to make you laugh. Katie knows what it is. It's a hoot. Anyway, I love you so much. We'll plug all of that. Thank you. Do watch Crashing on Max. And
the specials, they're all there.
They're all there, baby. And I owe you everything. Thank you so much. Would you say keep it crispy?
Keep it crispy.
You keep it crispy. There it is. Oh, no. Judd, our viral moment. There's your clip.
You made it with